Good evening, good evening. This is Venus with No Mess. Guys, today in court, these were some of the slides and stuff that was shown to the jury of little Justin Wood, the 3-year-old Julian Wood, I'm sorry. This was some of the slides that were shown to the jury, the knives and the bloody clothes. I'm just going to go ahead and view these and put them on my platform. But this is a sad occasion, and I know that his mother will be glad when this is over with. I just pray and hope they don't drag this out too long to give this little precious baby some justice. So guys, just be patient with me, okay?
All right, so let's start with your report on page 1 of 6 and tell us some of the items that you yourself obtained or ones that you examined, reviewed, and then distributed to other departments.
Yes, so starting with item 1 and 2, these were swabs that were collected from underneath the fingernails of the right and left hand of the decedent. These are samples that we collect for possible DNA testing, so we will process those samples and transfer them to the DNA unit. Items 3 and 4 were collected from the knuckles and palm of the right hand and then the right wrist, and also the knuckles and palm of the left hand and the left wrist. These samples were also submitted to the DNA unit for testing. And then 5 and 6 were swabs from the neck and swabs from the face of the decedent, also transferred to the DNA unit for testing.
So you do certain types of testing, but you do not do the DNA testing.
That's correct.
All right, so we have some other items that you've obtained now. What other items have you obtained, and from where have you obtained them?
The remaining items were submitted by the North Olmsted Police Department. Item 20 was a gray metal knife with an 8-inch blade and black handle. And this was labeled found at Giant Eagle exit to Dover, middle exit next to Enterprise, located in South Drive in River Rocks. We also received item 21, which was one gray metal knife with a 6-inch blade and brown handle, labeled found in front of Things Outlet.
All right, I'm going to stop you right there just for a
Sure.
minute. With regards to item 20 then, what are your duties with regards to that, and what do you do? It appears there are some sub-items that are created.
Yes, so my examination of the knife would be primarily looking for any staining, primarily apparent blood staining on the knife, and also collecting some samples for DNA testing as well. So I did examine the knife. I did not observe any blood staining on the handle of the knife, but I did swab the handle of the knife for possible DNA testing. I then observed the blade of the knife and I performed a chemical test, and I found a positive result for my presumptive chemical test, and this just means that blood may have been present. And then I swabbed that area and submitted that to DNA as well.
Okay, the next item, ma'am?
The next item, 21, was the gray metal knife with the 6-inch blade and brown handle. So I did a similar examination as item 20, mostly looking for apparent blood staining. I did not observe any blood stains on the handle of the knife. I did, however, collect a swab from the handle to send to DNA. And then I performed a chemical test for blood on the blade, both sides of the blade of the knife, and that test was negative, so no further testing on the blade.
All righty. Your item 22.
Item 22 was one blue t-shirt and one white tank top. And my examination with these clothing items, mainly one thing we will look for is the staining again, so looking for apparent blood staining. Another thing we will look for is damage to the item that is relevant to the case history. So in this case, I would be looking for sharp instrument damage on the clothing. And if I find something, I would mark it with a yellow arrow and assign it a letter and try to determine what type of damage that is.
All right. Item 22, then you have some sub-items there?
Yes, so when multiple items are received in one bag, we just assign an item number to each individual item. So item 22 was the bag containing both items. Item 21 was the blue t-shirt, and item 22.2 was the white tank top.
And item 23 and 24 and 25, ma'am?
Item 23 was one gray t-shirt labeled Giant Eagle shirt. 24 was one pair of black leggings labeled worn by Bionca Ellis. Item 25 was one pair of black with gray trim shorts labeled worn by Julian Wood.
All right. Next.
Item 26 was one white t-shirt labeled worn by Bionca Ellis. And item 27 was one black sweatshirt labeled worn by Bionca Ellis.
And out of item 27, did you do some checking or an evaluation, examination of that item?
Yes, I did. I examined that item for apparent blood staining, and we can do this visually by looking at the item, but with dark colored clothing, this can be difficult. So we can also use different types of light to try to bring out any potential blood staining on the item. So I did that in this case, and I did test a few stains on the front side of the sweatshirt, but none of those stains tested positive, all negative. I did, however, test the back side of the black sweatshirt, and on the upper posterior right sleeve, there was a presumptive positive result, meaning that that substance may be blood.
And did you also have photographs of these items taken?
I did.
So if it's okay with you, I'm going to show some photographs, and do you think we can do the photographs with the results?
Yes.
So we can do them simultaneously. All right. So we're going to show you what's been previously marked, State's Exhibit. Let's start with 152. What are we looking at 152?
So you're going to give the description and then your finding.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
State's Exhibit 152 is an overall photograph of one side of the gray metal knife with an 8-inch blade and black handle. That was item 20 in the trace evidence report.
And this number right here, ma'am, who creates that number?
The photography unit has that kind of number block. I will tell them the case number and the item number, and they will physically put the numbers on the block.
And Ms. Gray, just for maintaining our continuity, this 24-0839 is referring to which case?
That is the case of Julian Wood, and that's the medical examiner's office number.
Right. And then the TE, what does that refer to?
Trace evidence.
And is that item 20?
Yes.
So that refers to item 20, which is in your report.
Correct.
All right, so in examining State's Exhibit 152, and I think we can look at 153 as well. What are we looking at State's Exhibit 153?
State's Exhibit 153.
Oh, this evidence. It's hard to look at that knife, isn't it? I was just saying to my colleagues, it's really upsetting to see. It was huge, huge. We're going to hit a break. There's more coming up, more evidence from little Julian Wood, the victim in this case that we're certainly thinking about here this morning. Be right back. There.
I saw a woman stabbing a mother and child. I saw the knife covered in blood. I saw violent motions towards a mother and her child.
Who could do something like this and why? Those are the questions for this jury. We're watching the case of the state of Ohio versus Bionca Ellis. And in real time, we have the lead detective on the stand. The judge has put restrictions on our broadcast where we have to film that testimony, and then as soon as the court day is out of session, then we can air it for you. So we have testimony from Wednesday that we have not yet been able to air. You're going to see it all throughout the morning here on Court TV. So let's go back in and hear more from Shayna Gray. She is the trace evidence analyst.
State's Exhibit 153 is an overall photograph of the other side of the gray metal knife.
And is it that customary practices in your office to take photographs of all sides of an object?
Yes.
You can? All right. And your findings with regards to this?
I examined this item for staining. I did not observe any blood stains on the handle. I did test the blade of the knife, and that did test presumptive positive for blood. So that I was able to swab the blade and the handle and send those items to DNA.
Right. And is that also reflected in item 20.2?
Yes.
All right. Let's move on to State's Exhibit 154. What is State's Exhibit 154?
State's Exhibit 154 is an overall photograph of one side of the gray metal knife with a 6-inch blade and brown handle, which is item 21 in the trace evidence report.
All right, and we'll go to State's Exhibit, again, 155. Again, the same numbers in your trace evidence number?
Yes.
That corresponds. What were your findings with regards to item 21?
I examined the item for blood staining. I did not observe any on the handle or on the blade. I did, however, test the blade for blood, and the result was negative.
All right, let's move on to State's Exhibit 156. What are we looking at here, ma'am?
State's Exhibit 156 is an overall photograph of the front side of the gray t-shirt labeled Giant Eagle shirt.
And what item is that?
This is item 23 in the trace evidence report.
All right, and let's move on to State's Exhibit 157.
State's Exhibit 157 is an overall photograph of the rear side of the gray t-shirt, which is item 23 in the trace evidence report.
All right, and do you have any findings, with regards to item 23?
Yes, I examined this item. I did not observe any blood stains, and I did not observe any sharp instrument damage.
State's Exhibit 158.
State's Exhibit 158 is an overall photograph of the front side of the black leggings, which are item 24 in the trace evidence report.
And State's Exhibit 159.
State's Exhibit 159 is an overall photograph of the rear side of the black leggings, which are item 24 in the trace evidence report.
Do you have any findings with regards to these items?
I did. I performed testing for blood on both the front and back of the leggings, and that testing was negative. I also examined the item for any sharp instrument damage and did not observe any.
Thank you. State's Exhibit 160.
State's Exhibit 160 is the front side of overall photograph of the front side of the white t-shirt labeled worn by Bionca Ellis, which is item 26 in the trace evidence report.
All right, State's Exhibit 161.
State's Exhibit 161 is an overall photograph of the rear side of the white t-shirt. That is item 26 in the trace evidence report.
And what were your findings as to item 26, ma'am?
I did not detect blood on the front side of the t-shirt, and I did not observe any blood staining on the back side, and I did not observe any sharp instrument damage.
State's Exhibit 162.
State's Exhibit 162 is an overall photograph of the front side of the black sweatshirt labeled worn by Bionca Ellis, which is item 27 in the trace evidence report.
Okay, thank you. State's Exhibit 163, what are we looking at here?
State's Exhibit 163 is an overall photograph of the rear side of the black sweatshirt, which is item 27.
State's Exhibit 164.
State's Exhibit 164 is an overall photograph of that rear side of the sweatshirt again. This time there is a ruler placed on the upper right sleeve that is marking a location of possible blood staining that I removed from the item.
All right, ma'am. And who places that marking on the item?
I do.
All right, and does that marking reflect, does it provide a number and an item number?
It does.
And does it provide also a case number?
Yes.
All right, moving on to State's Exhibit 165. What are we looking at here?
State's Exhibit 165 is a close-up photograph of the area that I removed from the black sweatshirt, which was item 23.
And here, do your initials appear on this ruler?
They do.
All right, and that is the ruler that you have placed on that item.
It is.
All right, State's Exhibit 166.
State's Exhibit 166 is an overall photograph of the front side of the blue t-shirt. That is item 22.1 in the trace evidence report.
All right, and did you review and examine this shirt?
I did.
All right, and what were your findings as to this shirt?
As to the shirt, my findings were apparent blood was observed on the front and back of the shirt, and that was it for the front of the shirt.
All right, State's Exhibit 167.
State's Exhibit 167 is an overall photograph of the rear side of the blue t-shirt.
Now, on State's Exhibit 167, ma'am, there is a yellow marker. Could you please explain to us what that is?
The yellow marker was placed by me. This is pointing to an area of sharp instrument damage that I observed on the item, and the letter A is just to assign it a letter for the purposes of measurements and photographs.
State's Exhibit 167. I'm sorry, 168.
State's Exhibit 168 is a close-up photograph of defect A on the blue t-shirt.
And ma'am, we also see some stapling of this particular item. Who does the stapling of that item?
I will do the stapling of the item prior to my examination. This happens sometimes when we receive items that were cut off of an individual for medical aid. So we will staple the item back together for examination and photographs.
And State's Exhibit 169.
State's Exhibit 169 is an overall photograph of the front side of the white tank top, which is item 22.2 in the trace evidence report.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 170.
State's Exhibit 170 is an overall photograph of the rear side of the white tank top.
And again,
Oh my goodness. It's a lot of blood there on those shirts, and seeing that little baby shirt with that dinosaur. Oh my gosh. I can't imagine how these jurors are feeling right now. Can you? Let's bring in our legal analyst guest, attorney Jessica Mashali. Ooh, Jessica, it's like I want to take a big, deep breath right now, seeing that little dinosaur shirt. That's one of those images I don't think these jurors are going to be able to get out of their brains.
No, they're not going to be able to get it out of their brains. That's something that they're going to be thinking about maybe for the rest of their lives. Even just us watching it here and knowing about this story and listening to it is very, very difficult, and something that I think none of us will ever forget.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's so stunning. I think for so many reasons, you're at a place that most people think are safe, right? We don't think things like this happen at a grocery store. You know, it's also broad daylight. There are a lot of people around. The other thing about this, I think, that's also stunning is the victims that were chosen here, for lack of a better way of saying it. We don't know why exactly Margot Wood and Julian Wood were the targets here for Bionca Ellis. We don't know if she was having an episode of some sort and hallucinating, perhaps, who knows, or just evil and vicious and wanted to get them. Don't know, but vulnerable people, right, Jessica? When you think about who she could have gone after here, I mean, I don't know who you could have found more vulnerable than a mother pushing a shopping cart with a toddler.
Unfortunately, you see this a lot. You see that people, whether, and regardless of whether her defense is true or not, which I think is yet to be seen, you know that I think it's likely that she was insane, but regardless of her insanity, majority of attacks are done on people more vulnerable. And it's domestic.
Good evening, guys. I just wanted to show the evidence that was given to the jury today about the knife and the bloody clothes. It took me back, like that lady stated, took me way back when I just looked at that knife and I just broke down, because just imagine she was stabbing that little baby with that knife over and over. And then I keep looking at the video, how when she was in the store, when she was going toward Miss Wood, and then when Miss Wood passed her, she turned around and followed her. I can't get that picture out of my head, guys. I know it's late, and I know no one probably watching this, but God, we just gotta pray for Miss Wood. After looking at this video, I just can't get the pictures out of my head. I cannot get them out of my head. So imagine what the mother's going through. She got to live with this for the rest of her life, knowing she couldn't protect her baby. And then on top of that, what about the grandmother? Because the other child was home. Other child had fell asleep. And the grandmother told her daughter, said, leave this one here. You go ahead with the baby, and I will take care of this one. And just imagine, I know what her grandma said. I should have been there to protect you. I should have been there to help you. No one knows. But all I can say, guys, thank you for watching this. I just want to try to update every time I get some new information, try to update to my platform so that when they're ready to do closing argument, we will have all the details. But it's hard to watch. So guys, I want to say thank you again. Thank everyone for watching this clip. When I get it no more, I will make sure I update it up there. So guys, like I said, protect our babies, save our babies. And please don't forget self-control and love, patience, and peace the next time. Thank you for watching, guys, and have a great night. Thank you.